Well, one of UCLA's top transfer targets at the quarterback position decided to go to Indiana. That's Fernando Mendoza. Where's UCLA going to go? And how is that JUCO ruling going to help the Bruins?
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever it's your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for your support. It's your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel because the NFL playoffs are almost here. Not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Where we get started immediately as we head to the transfer portal. UCLA has turned into a DBU, defensive back university, with getting a bunch of guys in the portal, including Christmas Day commits. But the big name signing of the week was what UCLA didn't get. It's Fernando Mendoza, who was deciding between a UCLA, Georgia, Miami. All right, where does he go? Indiana. I'm not sure a few years ago you would have thought, all right, who is UCLA losing their players to, or as a transfer target, who would they lose them to? They would lose them to Indiana. Well, after Curt Cignetti came in, beat down the Bruins, made it to the CFP, what he did with Curtis Rourke, Fernando Mendoza's like, I'm going to go there. So while Tino Sunseri, the new UCLA offensive coordinator, could have had that same pull to UCLA, he decided to take his talents to Bloomington, which leaves UCLA without a transfer quarterback. And that's something Deshaun Foster had on his Christmas wish list heading into the portal offseason. I want a quarterback, and I think we can get one, is what he was telling reporters after the season. Okay, how does UCLA balance going after somebody who could easily be gone in the year, like any of these kids could be, but have good enough talent to start right away while these youngsters still develop? Because the most experienced quarterback on the UCLA roster transferred out. That was Justin Martin. That was left after Ethan Garbers has graduated. Well, the JUCO ruling has kind of changed the game. And if you're not understanding what the JUCO ruling is, basically, with the NCAA's clarification, if you started your collegiate career in 2020 or later, and you started at JUCO ball or had any part of a JUCO career, that doesn't count towards your clock. And now these guys are filing for injunctions, like Diego Pavia, who's going to go play, I think, for Vanderbilt, but who knows where he's going to finish his career at. That helps UCLA go after a guy who's now older, and Pete Thamel of ESPN reports he's only going to take one visit or only has one schedule. That's Joey Aguilar. You're like, hey, Zach, what happened to Fernando Mendoza? Well, he chose elsewhere. What about Caden Samanza? Well, the Bruins are in on him, but you can get a 22, 23-year-old, maybe even a little older kid in Joey Aguilar, a senior 6'3" product who is more refined, probably fits more of that Curtis Rourke model, and has a lot more playing experience and success at this stage compared to Samanza. You could argue similarly to Mendoza, although Mendoza, I thought, played really well in the ACC and the Pac-12 the last couple of seasons. You've got Aguilar, who played at Appalachian State. So he went to App State in 2023. This is what he did in his first year in D1 ball after 2 years in JUCO. He threw for 3,700 yards in one season, broke an App State record, threw for 33 touchdowns, accounted for 4,000 yards of total offense, had the most single-season 200-yard passing games for App State, 13, pretty much almost all the games. He had the most pass attempts, the most completions. He was the newcomer of the year in the Sun Belt. And while breaking the single-season touchdown passing record, was his bowl games MVP. And when you look at who had the most regular season touchdowns, 33, you look between LSU's Jaden Daniels, you look at Oregon's Bo Nix and the FBS. Aguilar was amongst in a 12-game span up with a Heisman winner, a Heisman candidate, and that's what his numbers were bringing him. The former Diablo Valley Community College kid. And then this year, all he did was return with the Sun Belt's preseason Offensive Player of the Year nomination. He was the only returning quarterback with those numbers that were like Heisman worthy in 23. And while you can say, wait, did he regress? Did the California kid regress? He played only 11 games this year, threw for 3,000 yards, 23 touchdowns, more interceptions, but still threw for more yards, accounted for a little bit of rushing as well. That is something what UCLA is going to, they're in on this kid. Pete Thamel says he's going to take a look at UCLA. And also, there's other people calling, but I think this is a real good fit. Okay. He is looking at Cal, where he's heard from Cal, UCF, Washington State, Ole Miss, Charlotte, Coastal Carolina, Miami of Ohio, Western Kentucky. And Pete Thamel says the only visit he has in the works is UCLA. So the Mountaineers were 5-6 in the games he played this year. And he's a miniature dual threat, right? Garbers didn't have that dual threat moniker on him, but then he made plays, so he turned into a dual threat. And your quarterback is that much more dangerous if he just even has the potential to run the football. Maybe he doesn't need to do it every time like DTR, or how UCLA's running game was so bad that sometimes Garbers, his positive yardage was much better than what TJ Harden had this year, to no fault of either of their own. But Aguilar, you look at him, and while UCLA's already missed on Fernando Mendoza, I think this would be a home run get for UCLA in the portal. And he played 2 years of JUCO ball. So from what I'm understanding is he could still have another year or two to play. He could play 2 years. Now, if the numbers he's put up, I'm thinking if he comes to UCLA and puts up big numbers, he might be done after a year. At some point, the NFL is going to come calling. Someone's going to come calling. Although, if you're putting up big numbers in college, somebody's going to pay you millions of dollars in NIL. I'm not sure if that's what UCLA is going to throw at him. But they better well take a look at this kid, as they already are, and give him a good look at what UCLA has to offer. And if he's going to play for 1 year, that allows your young quarterbacks to develop, UCLA to have a super successful quarterback option who can pass the torch. And oh, by the way, California native, bring him back to the West Coast. While he also has that second year of eligibility, we've seen like the 24, 25-year-old quarterbacks. That's becoming more common, right? Bo Nix, pretty old quarterback, played almost 5 years. This guy could play 5-6 years in college ball. And that would help UCLA. Yeah, it's going to be weird when he's going to need health insurance after his potential UCLA career is done. Maybe before. I guess I have to look at the age too. He's pretty close to that, right? 26. But here we are with a quarterback that could immediately make UCLA a contender to win a lot of ball games in 2025 and maybe into 2026 because they haven't released that Big Ten schedule yet from what I've seen, or it keeps changing, so it's off the top of my head. Joey Aguilar, who huge. Now, Caden Samanza, the MAC freshman of the year, redshirt freshman, a little younger, 5'11", also a California kid, more of a SoCal kid. He'd be super successful. His first collegiate start came against number 1 Georgia. And while he threw 3 picks in that game, the Ball State product in Caden Samanza, he's showed some poise with a much worse team. So maybe some better players, maybe better coaching, maybe better system. Coming back home could help him a lot for somebody who got thrust into the starting position, starting in what, like 11 of his first 12 games, 13 of his first 14, something like that for Caden Samanza. And I think that's where UCLA is going to pivot. But would you choose the 19, 20-year-old quarterback who is still probably more of a raw product, probably better than what UCLA has for sure right now, compared to a guy who's played 4 years, started at the JUCO level, played at the JUCO level, and has been really good at the FBS level against some solid competition. Sun Belt competition is no slouch and is better than the MAC. Not that Samanza couldn't succeed, but at some point, with that JUCO ruling coming in, that could immediately help UCLA. Now, Samanza would be at least having 3 years of eligibility because he's just finishing his redshirt freshman campaign, while Aguilar's like, wait a minute, I got to throw my name in the portal. I'm a senior who could still have 2 more years of eligibility with those 2 years of JUCO ball. I just wonder how much that would help UCLA. I say lots. and we might forget UCLA even went after Fernando Mendoza. It might even land a better product, older, veteran, and turn this into what Curtis Rourke 2.0 is, not at Indiana, but in Westwood turning into Pasadena in the Rose Bowl. I like that. I like that option. And they better wrap it up real quick, because then we can start talking about what the offense will look like instead of who might be the quarterback. If he comes, clear-cut starter, no question. No question the other guys are either going to transfer out or they're going to work on development for the next year and a half. All right? Now, UCLA has cemented themselves as a DBU sorts in the transfer portal. They have 8 guys. What are they doing? Well, they've rebuilt that room in the secondary under Coach Martin, the new secondary coach. You got 2 coaches actually in the secondary, but he's one of the key recruiters. What's it look like with their new Christmas Day commit? We'll talk about that next on Locked On UCLA. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Well, it's definitely happened to me. I've got quite a few subscriptions. I'm like, what? What am I paying for? Well, Rocket Money has made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is that personal assistant finance app. You can cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending. Hey, it's the holiday season. You're spending through the roof. And it brings it all together in one place. Because sometimes I'm a little scatterbrained. Rocket Money puts it all together. It's helped users save over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. And members have saved up to $740 a year. World Series ticket, maybe lots of shopping sprees, all that when using the app's premium features. And hey, check it out. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, here we go. Heading on to the second segment. UCLA has done a lot of work, and I still think they need to get a couple more guys on the offensive side of the ball. They've brought in 3 O-linemen, 1 receiver. They haven't really done anything in the running back position other than look at, Wayshawn Parker. They've given a good look at maybe a Samanza, a good look at Mendoza, the quarterback position. They've now, I think, are apparently in on Joey Aguilar from App State, bring the California kid home, the NorCal native, but bring him to SoCal, make him a legend potentially at UCLA as an older quarterback, if that all works out. But it's been Coach Mead who has been putting in a lot of work. UCLA right now has some of the most commits at the DB position. 8 guys from my count have come through in the portal. That doesn't include what's coming in the freshman class. That doesn't include the last-minute flip of LaRue Zamorano III. So they got at least 8 to 10 guys. If you thought UCLA didn't have a DB, maybe they're going to have to switch one of these kids and turn them into a receiver at some point, because they got so many kids coming to UCLA to play spots. Remember, there's the roster crunch. There's more scholarship players and less walk-ons. And what they got on Christmas Day was Robert Stafford. Christmas Day commit. So you thought we're there celebrating with the family. Maybe you're preparing to celebrate Hanukkah. Maybe you're all there. All right, I got lots of things to forget about. And maybe the portal is one of them one day. No, UCLA works. These kids commit. They want to take their time to shine. And the Bruins are bringing Robert Stafford over from Miami. 2 years at Miami, he was a Hurricane. And he didn't do much in terms of playing time. 2023, didn't play. And a backup in 12 games, had 7 tackles, 1 pass breakup in his 12 games coming into the 2024 season. And he's got a few more a few more years of eligibility left. So I'm not sure he's going to exactly get a lot of playing time immediately. A former 4-star of the 23 class, a top 40 prospect in the state of Florida, and he is currently a 3-star recruit looking at the 24/7 sports model in the transfer portal. And now, of course, the question remains, are these guys all going to play? I thought UCLA did a fair job when it came to rebuilding, replenishing the secondary in 2024 in a last-second moment, switching from a new D coordinator, moving things around, new coach. And I thought those guys made some plays, led to UCLA victories, and did great jobs in their solo year of service at UCLA. All right, solo year playing. They're 1 year. Now, what Coach Meets had to do is go out and just rebuild with youth, with depth, with freshmen, with his own son, who's supposed to be really good, although he's at his third school. He's played at two potential playoff contenders at Arizona State, where he was injured, didn't get a lot of time, and then Oregon, who, if they weren't in the Pac-12 conference in 23, would have been a playoff contender elsewhere. So they've got a lot of talent. And I'm not going to tell you every single one of these guys will be good. Not every single one of these guys are going to play in 2025. But the fact that they're emphasizing points of weakness, points of need, the last few days have seen them build just with talent and depth in the secondary. They've gotten what I thought was a really good linebacker commit from Oregon State, Isaiah Chisholm. They've been in and out on some top-tier D linemen. I think, what was it, Michael Abiata? He didn't eventually choose UCLA, went to Oklahoma State, but they've got a couple of D linemen coming to UCLA through the portal. And their other biggest need is the O-lineman spot. As much as I hype and love the quarterback position, and I think UCLA, if they have a chance to get an Aguilar, they are building up their points of weakness. And I think they thought, hey, the defense needs a complete overhaul. Why? Because they have nothing left with experience and talent. The linebackers are gone. The D-line talent is gone. And the one-year stopgap guys from the portal at the corner, safety positions are pretty much all wiped out because they used their last year of COVID eligibility at UCLA, whether it's their 5th, 6th, 7th year. They all used it at UCLA, and they did an admirable job. I just wonder the coaching, the talent, the development, and I don't think all these guys are going to succeed, but I also don't think that all these guys are going to fail. All right? You look at the numbers, you bring in the relationships, you bring these kids out west, you see the hype from the former UCLA players. There's got to be something about these kids on the secondary. All of a sudden, UCLA, maybe with a little bit better pass rush, hopefully in 2025. And with a lack of a linebacker, maybe they'll go undersized there. I wonder what Akaki Malloy is going to do to employ his linebackers in 2025 with what the final recruiting looks like. But the secondary, I'd be shocked if they get somebody else, but they still might. I thought they were going to stop at 7. I thought they were going to stop at 6. And then Coach Meats' son came in, and then they got another commit. And oh, by golly, they brought in a Christmas commit. And Robert Stafford, hey, you bring someone who's highly ranked, you give them an opportunity, they could flourish. We've seen that happen the last few years at UCLA, notably on the defensive side of the ball, not too much on the offensive side of the ball, right? Other than maybe Jake Bobo and Zach Charbonnet, of course, the running backs have done well the last few years, mostly through the portal until Carson Steele, because of Chip Kelly forgetting the offensive line exists. The defensive guys, I thought have hit pretty well in recent years. Wassau, the Murphy twins, Latus. Now, some of those are just absolute steals. Femi, I thought, really built into something at the end of his UCLA career in a different spot. The Bruins, man, oh man, if some of these guys can immediately contribute in 2025, they can have a really good secondary. Not sure how they'll rank across the Big Ten, not sure how they'll rank across the country. But I'd like to think this unit could be better than it was in 2024. And that wasn't as bad as we thought it would be coming into this season with how much turnover there needed to be with a new defensive coordinator coming in. Only time will tell. But DBU here at UCLA, I'm believing. Hopefully they just prove it on the field through spring practice, fall camp, and on the field in 2025. Now, last segment, let's once again go over that UCLA-Gonzaga game. Lines out. Do I think UCLA is going to win this game, or am I going to be eating my words afterwards? We'll talk about it next on Locked On UCLA. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong and keep it going with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins as a new customer. How can you do so? UCLA, Gonzaga, they're taking on each other in a big SoCal clash, West Coast battle of premium college basketball powers. Gonzaga is -4.5. All right. Now, that's a bit of a toss-up. That's a tough one right there. Tough UCLA game. If you want to put in your first $5 bet and try and get $250 on that UCLA game, check it out. I'd say Gonzaga -4.5. All right, so visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, here we go. Last segment. Now, if you just listened to that FanDuel ad, or if you skip it, you didn't listen to it, or if you're listening to the ad-free version, you would have just heard the line from FanDuel, Gonzaga minus 4.5 in a game that's practically in UCLA's backyard. All right. In the Clippers' new arena, in the Intuit Dome, a midday tip, third straight Saturday in a row that they have tipped off at 12:01 West Coast time. What does that mean? Gonzaga is expected to win this game despite being 9-3. Gonzaga, in my mind, should be 11-1. It's frustrating that they're not. They've blown a couple of games. The only one that they truly lost was to UConn on a neutral site, also Madison Square Garden in New York, just like UCLA blew that huge lead to North Carolina. But these are two teams that are going to be fighting for the right to host a 3 or 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, probably in the West Coast region. And if Gonzaga wipes the floor with the WCC, a bigger, deeper, more stacked WCC this year with the additions of Washington State and Oregon State, could get more respect and more challenges heading into the NCAA tournament. So maybe they flip the switch and go and turn into a 1 seed. That unlikely, but after they played UCLA, they had a slow start. They actually turned into a strong competitor come March. And would have been a marquee win for the Bruins last year in Maui. Now, the Bruins have lost 4 straight to Gonzaga. They're coming off a woeful second part of the second half in New York, where they had a huge lead. And if they make any semblance of free throws early, in the middle of that run, or late, they probably win this game if they hold on to the ball. If Dylan Andrews' hand is not just clearly slapped by the Tar Heels for a steal, whatever, the Bruins could win this game. Or they could have won that game. Now against Gonzaga, why are they 4.5-point favorites? Because they have the post to beat up the Bruins. They have the veteran point guard, Ryan Nembhard, who is really good, has as many steals as he does turnovers. So that's pretty good, averages almost 2 steals per game. And if UCLA wants to cough it up, it's a large part what semblance of UCLA's backcourt is going to outperform Ryan Nembhard. Can that happen? I'm not sure individually. UCLA has shown that any of these guys, Sebastian Mack's a little different, but even then, sometimes he can get a little wild and out of control. If anybody from Dylan Andrews, Sky Clark, Sebastian Mack, Trent Perry, if Cronin trusts him against a veteran point guard versus a true freshman matchup, not one I'd want to attempt in this game. If UCLA goes after this, then those guys have to beat Ryan Nembhard, whether it's forcing him to turnovers, bad mistakes, a 3 of 11 night with 3 turnovers, which is more than he averages, and limited assists, then UCLA has won one of the key matchups in this game. Now, he's their 4th leading scorer, but he can take over and hit some threes as well. A good, solid average, 40%. You mix in the post. Do the Bruins get beat up in the post with an EK, with a Braden Huff? Just a couple of options Gonzaga can bring in the starting lineup off the bench, both averaging 20 minutes per game while averaging double figures, and can hit the glass hard for a UCLA team that has struggled to rebound, struggled to do so. Despite having a couple of players that could help and a somewhat super athletic roster, it just hasn't translated into rebounding success. And for UCLA to win this game, it's going to have to be a game that looks more like the Oregon game, where they shoot the 3 ball better, which is one of Gonzaga's strengths, stopping teams from making threes. They're one of the top 3 teams in the country at guarding the 3. And that is where UCLA, if they want to get in this and play well, and when they're going on a run against North Carolina, it was Bilodeau stepping into threes. Well, I don't think Gonzaga is going to let Bilodeau walk into an open straight-on 3, and nor do I think Bilodeau is going to go 5 of 6 from downtown or 4 or 5. Do I think Sebastian Mack is going to go 3 or 4 from downtown? I do not. But UCLA has other players who can replicate the same success. Dylan Andrews can go a 2 for 4. Nice. Sky Clark could go a 3 for 4. Maybe Mack goes 1 for 2. And hey, we can't forget about Eric Daly Jr., who could go put up a 20-point night and dominate against the Graham Ike. Maybe the size, the athleticism could make a big difference in that matchup. That is the big matchup I'm pinning. If you listen to the other Locked On UCLA episode where I talked a little more in depth about it, Ike versus Daly Jr., a unique matchup. Not sure if it's going to be a 1v1 necessarily, but statistically at the end of the game, it could be interesting. And this might be one of those games where Bilodeau struggles. That game against North Carolina wasn't a fluke, but Gonzaga has a little more size to fluster him. Now, if he shoots efficiently, doesn't need 26, but gets an efficient 16, that's where they need UCLA, the backcourt, to perform. They need Kobe Johnson to be the biggest thief in the world and steal it from Nembhard a couple of times, just be all over the floor defensively. And if he is, then we know UCLA can handle tough offensive matchups on the other side, like Gonzaga is. And if Daly comes in, has a bounce-back performance, then that would be a good sign for UCLA that they can compete with some of the nation's best. I'm still picking Gonzaga to win this game, probably by 5. The line is 4.5. Would I be shocked if UCLA wins this game? I'll have to see how the game starts. But the only time they were truly out of a game was against New Mexico, and they had size across the board. Gonzaga has size that can make UCLA uncomfortable, and a veteran point guard that can negate UCLA's strengths, which is why I think Gonzaga could win this game and should win this game. But the Bruins are very competitive. They're much better than they were last year. And despite what they did against North Carolina and how they tried to blow the Arizona game, they're going to learn at some point. Still the first portion of the season. UCLA wins a couple of Big Ten games, a couple of tournament games. This is still only the first third of the season, even though it feels like the midway point. Only the first third in terms of games played, potentially for UCLA. So hopefully they learn a lot of lessons. And Cronin, yes, his teams like to go up 10 and give up a lead and make you hope that they come back and win. That's just how it happens, apparently. But they're good enough defensively that teams are brought back down to earth. Now, North Carolina scored in the mid-70s. Gonzaga has not scored less than 71 points in regulation. To win this game, UCLA is going to have to win it 72-68. Now, they're going to have to score. I'm not sure unless it goes to overtime, they're going to win this like 82-80. But they cannot go this game with forgetting how to score the basketball. I'm not sure they're going to clamp them down like they did against Arizona. It might look a little bit like the North Carolina game, but UCLA has to shut the door for 40 minutes and keep them under 71. That's the number. Under 71 points, I think UCLA wins this game if they've done that defensively against Gonzaga. A little more doesn't mean that they lose, but that means the Bulldogs are scoring, they're getting what they want, and at some point UCLA might run out of gusto to go score consistently. They have the numbers, but Gonzaga is also pretty good on the defensive side. They just are. Is this the game where we see a big man breakout? Can William Kyle come score 10 points? Easy layups, easy dunks? Get a couple of boards and change the game? Or is this an Adai Mara show? I'm not entirely sure. I'm leaning Daly and the UCLA backcourt that have the biggest impact in this game and need to for UCLA to win this game. And afterwards, we're going to react to it right here on Locked On UCLA. So like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for your support. Tune in. Cheer on the Bruins. I'm still confident. I'm still believing. But, I am leaning more Gonzaga at this point. But still, late my words. Come back and find out after that game, December 28th. Get your hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.